Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Before we begin the Mawlid, there was just a question that a lot of people are asking given the snowstorm that is impending, which is, do you have to attend Friday prayers if there's a snowstorm taking place? Conceptually, a snowstorm isn't different from other weather circumstances, whether it is heavy rain or a snowstorm or other weather conditions. They're not in themselves an excuse from Friday prayers or for those able to attend the congregational prayer. Rather, the consideration would be, does this constitute an undue hardship? Right? Does this constitute an undue hardship? And that undue hardship can sometimes be personal and sometimes it can be general. Right? A personal undue hardship is when, for that person in their circumstances and with the reasonable ability that they have, would it constitute an undue difficulty or an undue danger for them to attend the Friday prayer? And in some cases it could be. Right? If the roads are very slippery and the mode of transportation by which you can reasonably take off from work, for example, and get to the Friday prayer is by car, it could be that it is very difficult. But your friend who works downtown, for them it might be relatively more straightforward because they just walk from their house to the subway underground, and they take the train right by where the Friday prayer is taking place. Right? So you can't necessarily generalize that ruling. Right? So if there's undue fear of hardship or harm, then one would be excused from the congregational prayer. And Friday prayer, one tries to take that extra effort because it is more incumbent than other prayers in terms of attending in congregation. Can a masjid cancel Friday prayers? And it's actually happened in our area. Actually, at least a day early, one of them, a certain Islamic center sent out an announcement that given the impending storm, we will not be holding Friday prayers. And that is rather expansive, a dispensation to take. One, because you don't know beforehand how exactly the storm is going to hit. Right? There is that uncertainty, particularly 24 hours in advance. In normal circumstances, mosques should stay open. Right? Mosques should stay open, and that's why historically, if not the imam, then at least the caretaker of the mosque, who would often be the muezzin, would stay within the premises of the mosque. Right? Or very close, so that they can keep the masjid open, because someone might be stuck on the road and the only place they can pray is the masjid. So there's a greater onus in keeping the masjid open. Unless, again, there's undue fear of hardship and harm. And only in very exceptional circumstances, right? When it's a generalized close down. So businesses aren't open, people aren't going outside, and there's a generalized danger. So that most normal modes of transportation, etc., are not possible. Only then should Friday prayers, particularly, not be held, right? Because the public safety there would take precedence. But for the individual, so that there's a general circumstance for the individual, they have to make an honest assessment. Can I reasonably get there without difficulty? If they can, then they must. Right? Even if it means leaving slightly earlier and accounting for that extra time. But if there is that hardship, then one should not feel bad about taking that dispensation. Right? So if someone's circumstances are that they are generally unable to make it, given their circumstances, then they should have the sincere intention that had I been able to, I would have attended. And if they're true in that intention, right, then they do not lose any of the reward. And this is considered, you have the full reward if you have sincere concern. The concern was sincere that, oh Allah, I would have gone had I been able to. But they say false concern is one of the worst types of hypocrisy. False concern is, I'll just intend it instead, right? But you know that you could make it. And had the excuse been lifted, you wouldn't make it. And that kind of false concern is a type of hypocrisy, right? And you're not kidding Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So that's the balance in our religion. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tells us that وَمَا جَعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ مِنْ حَرَجٍ. He has not placed any hardship for you in matters of religion. The hardship that is not present in our religion is any undue hardship, is that which is normally considered unbearable. How would you judge? Because sometimes it can be just they say if you imagine 10 people in your circumstance, 10 people of religious concern, would most of them try go ahead? If so, then you should too. 10 reasonable religious people, not lax nor extreme, right? And that's just one way of considering. Because sometimes you're like, how do I know if it's going to be that dangerous? So you just consider. And that's also, of course, practically why good company is of benefit, right? Because sometimes you may overfear. So you're like, oh my goodness, there's no way I can drive in this kind of weather. You're some kind of random Brit, and you see a little snow, and you're like, oh my God, Yawm al-Qiyamah is around the corner, right? But it's not, right? So you contact someone and you say, well, just drive a little slowly and you'll get there, right? On the other hand, some people are the opposite, right? It's like I asked someone in my family, what would it take for you to be excused from Jummah? And this person said, fear of death, right? So unless you're sure that you'll die, anything short of that, you have to go, right? And that too is an imbalance. So in those situations where one's uncertain, one of the many benefits of good company is that you ask, right? You ask your man, Yama, do you think you're going to be able to make it for Jummah today? How do you think the roads are? Say, oh, it seems pretty straightforward. Or say, no. The roads are very dangerous, slippery, etc. So that's one of the things to do. If unsure, right? Consult your friends. And if genuinely unsure, right, and you don't know what the legal parameters are, that's where it's good to ask a scholar broadly what those parameters are. So I hope that helps. It doesn't look that dramatic, at least here in Toronto. Wallahu a'lam. Walhamdulillah.